So I've had a lot of people ask me about the wheel settings that I use for Forza Horizon 6. I wanted to kind of do this video in 3 separate parts. 1, I'm going to show you the exact settings I use for a Thrustmaster T598. 2, I'm going to show you the exact settings that I use in advanced controls of the Forza Horizon 6 menu. And 3, I kind of want to give a general explanation as to what these settings sort of feel like. And if you're having issues, hopefully what you can do to solve them. First, I want to say, this is all kind of just my opinion. I've literally went through every single setting top and bottom and figured out exactly what I like. I've played a lot of racing games, but I started out on Gran Turismo, and that's always kind of what I've been chasing for in a wheel. In that game, you can drive any car and not have to go back into the menu ever. It just feels great. Every car feels great. And that's kind of what I'm going for, is an all-around setting that just works for every single car, every single race. I don't have to go back in the menu ever. So I hope this helps you, but please don't get mad at me in the comments if it doesn't. I'm trying my best here, please. So starting out with the Thrustmaster settings, if you don't have this wheel, feel free to skip this part. I chaptered these out, so just skip past this if you don't have this wheel. That's cool, I understand. I leave my force feedback set to 100. I leave the mode set to extreme. I leave inertia off, friction off. I have the boost low set to +2 and the boost high set to +2. I leave the speed set to extreme. I have the wheel damper set to 0, the game damper set to low, spring set to 0, gear jolt set to mid. This is a personal preference one. I personally think the gear jolt setting in this wheel is really freaking cool, so if you don't like it, turn it off. But it works in this game, so I like to use it. I have the engine roar set to low. This is another personal preference one. If you don't like the vibrations in your wheel, turn this off, but I personally think it's pretty cool, so I like to leave it on. I have the end stop set at high, and that's it for those settings. I'm gonna go back to the top now. So when you get to the top, you go right, you get to this setting, and you can actually change the wheel rotation in here. I personally like to only drift with 900, but I like doing some races with 540. This is the only setting that I change on the regular, and it's only based on what type of driving I'm doing. That's really all the settings I have for the Thrustmaster T598. Now I'm gonna move on to the settings that I actually do in advanced controls of the Forza Horizon 6 menu. So I know I said I was gonna start in advanced controls, but I actually just thought about it, and I think it'd be better for me to just start in difficulty. I personally like to leave anti-lock braking on. That's just a personal preference thing, but this is something that I think is really important. Playing on simulation just has so much more of an accurate feel, in my opinion. It's up to you really, but I would lean into more simulation if you can. Secondly, I always leave traction control completely off. On certain cars, I'll turn it back on, but I mostly just leave it off all the time, especially for drifting. Turn it off, leave it off. Do not turn it on. It's better for you, trust me. Stability control is kind of the same thing for me. There are some cars, like some off-road races, that I'll turn it on just to get it over with, because I don't like doing the off-road races in this game, unless they're the rally ones. The rally ones are cool. The cross-country ones piss me off. I hate those. For shifting, this is kind of personal preference, but I have a clutch, so I like to leave it with manual with clutch. That's just kind of the way I like to do it. If you don't have a clutch, you can probably just do manual. Driving line is kind of a personal preference thing as well. You can decide to do that. I like mine off. Damage and tire wear, I just turn it off just because it's annoying, honestly. I just want to drift. I don't want to worry about tires. This isn't real life. This is Forza. Rewind, that's a personal preference thing. That's up to you. Basically, the most important thing I would say in this, and why I didn't want to skip it, is you should really just have your steering at simulation, and it's going to make it feel way more accurate when you're driving. But jumping over to advanced controls now. In advanced controls, like I said, I like to have the vibration on my wheel. I know a lot of people don't, but I personally think it's cool that my wheel can even do that. So I like to leave it on, but I have it set to pretty low, kinda. So you'll see that later. I'm just gonna skip these next two. These are all kind of just depending on what you play on. For inverted force feedback, that doesn't really affect my wheel, so I'm just gonna skip it right now. Steering linearity, I like to leave set at 50. I feel like that just feels the most natural to me. The acceleration access dead zone inside and outside, you want to have these set to a 0 and 100. This affects your throttle pedal. I personally have my dead zone set in the actual control panel of my throttle pedals. These next ones, the deceleration access dead zone, you could leave these set to 0 and 100. I have mine set to 2. I had my brake pedal calibrated a little bit wrong, so I just have it set to 2 and 100 right now, but 0 and 100 is fine. If you're getting some ghost input on your brakes, you can easily bump this up just a little bit, but I wouldn't go too high because too much dead zone is going to affect your brake braking, which is not fun. The clutch access dead zone inside and outside, I have my clutch turned down just a little bit from default because I want it to kick on sooner so I can clutch kick a little bit easier. I have the dead zone outside for my clutch set to 85 just so I don't have to press it all the way down to know it engages. For my e-brake access dead zone inside, I have it set to default, but the outside, I have it set just a little bit down so I don't have to pull it all the way to make sure it's engaged. On vibration scale, this is what I was talking about earlier where I have it turned down just a little bit, but I personally like that. If you don't like the vibrations, feel free to turn them all the way down. That's just something I personally like. For force feedback scale, I have it set to 0.09. I feel like it's not super strong and easy to manage. It's kind of a personal preference thing. You can turn it down more than that if you want your wheel to feel a little bit lighter, or you can turn it up more if you want it to feel stronger. Center spring scale, I have mine set to 1.2. I think that just feels the most natural, honestly. Wheel damper scale, I have mine set to 1.6, and that's only because I was getting some weird oscillations, so I turned that up just to smooth things out just a little bit. Mechanical trail scale, I have mine set to 1.1. Force feedback minimum force, I have this set to just 1. And force feedback load sensitivity, I have mine set to 0.8. And then I left all these normal. And then the last one, steering sensitivity, I just left it at 0.5. That's really it for the advanced control settings. For this next section though, I'm just gonna kind of go through these and kind of film my wheel and me driving and trying to give you some examples of weird things that happen when you turn these up too high or have them too low. So I'm just gonna go ahead and turn this center spring scale all the way up and just try to describe what it feels like. So for the center spring scale, it almost feels like it increases the speed at which your wheel wants to rotate. If you want your wheel to feel a little bit stronger, you could probably turn this up a little bit more than what I had it, but I personally like it set to 1.2. So for the wheel damper scale, I can't really show this one in practice, but I personally liked it when I had it set to 1.6. When I had it turned down pretty low, I did get oscillation in my wheel. The next one, mechanical trail scale, I had mine set to 1.1, but I'm just gonna go ahead and turn it up. When you have it turned up all the way, if I turn it just like a little bit, it turns the car so much and it makes it way harder to turn side to side. So I left mine set to like the 1.1 standard. I'd like it to be a little bit stronger, but if you want your wheel to feel lighter in turns, I would turn this down. And if you want your wheel to feel heavier in turns, I would turn this up. This next one, force feedback minimum force, if you turn this one up all the way, it's hard to describe, but it makes my wheel feel like 6 times more powerful. I don't really personally like this. It's almost too heavy. I just left mine set at the default setting personally. If you wanted your wheel to feel lighter, you could end up turning this down just a little bit, but I would personally probably just leave it at the default setting. For the force feedback load sensitivity, it feels good when you have it up really high, but my wheel does this weird thing where it likes to like do these micro jitters at full lock. It's trying to give you more feedback of what the tires are doing, but at full lock, it like can't move further than it wants to. I personally liked it set to 0.8. I felt like it felt smooth and I felt like it didn't do any of those weird jumpy jolts at full lock. So if that's happening to you, you might want to turn this down just a little bit. So that's really all I got for wheel settings, honestly. I want to just say like, don't be afraid to play around with these settings. You know, this is really just all my opinion, and I just hope this helps guide you in the right direction of what you're trying to get out of your wheel. If you made it this far, you're freaking rad. Thank you for being here, and I really appreciate each and every one of you. If you wouldn't mind hitting that like and subscribe button, that would be pretty sick. I'll definitely catch you guys in the next one.